Okay. Are we supposed to do something first?
No,
That's on the first. Okay. Okay.
It's just you don't know what you're getting. So far, except for it's about let's give you it's not going to start. No, obviously.
Okay, shalom everybody. Wow. Shalom and bracha. It's been a while. All right. Where's this? There should be 2 pages. Okay. The first one has the logo on it, and then there's page 5 and 6 that just arrived 10 minutes ago. To nobody's fault, my own. It's here's a 5 and 6 because that was last night's edition, and we just printed it. Okay, it's nice to be back. Also, if this rings a bell, resonates by anybody, I was at Camp Moshava for a month. Do you have any old Moshavaniks? All right, so with Peterborough, Livingston, man, Indian Orchard, yeah. We go back a long time there. My wife, this is our 3rd round. My wife grew up there. I met her there. I came in college. We met there. It's a good story for some other time. And then after making Aliyah, that was our ticket back home to be able to see family. And so also, I think this resonates. Like, talk to Lim, right? Get those tickets for the whole family. So that's how we were able to pull that off. We stopped for a number of years, and now we're back again. After we finished up our Shlichut B'Torah Mitzion, which was in Washington, our last Shabbos, we never had closure. I always thought I was going back. They had left our boxes in the barn in the Indian Orchard for many years, and then so I said to my wife Elisa that we never had closure about not going back, so we went back to visit our very last Shabbat on Shlichut, and they invited us to come back the next year. So this is our 3rd round, which is they do great education there for Eretz Yisrael. Okay, so we find ourselves just a few days before Tisha B'Av, and therefore it's most appropriate for us to be able to talk about Yerushalayim. Because, the more you're involved with something, the more appropriate, the more... We always talk about Yerushalayim. We're very involved with it, and therefore, when it comes to Tisha B'Av, we really feel the loss, because it's not something that we come to just once a year, but it lives with us all the time. And Chazal, in their brilliance, besides the fact that we mention it 3 times a day in the Shmona Esrei, but over the course of the year, they peppered in all those different Chagim, Taniyot, to remind us that the world is not right without the Beis HaMikdash, Jewish society for sure, but the entire world as well. And, once a year, cut back on your comfort creatures for like 3 weeks, and then for a week, and then obviously Tisha B'Av. So let's talk about Yerushalayim a little bit, and gives us a great appreciation, and we could therefore know what to daven for on Tisha B'Av. Okay, we begin with number 1. Chachamim, the Gemara in Tanis. Chachamim omrim kol ha'oseh melacha b'Tisha B'Av ve'eino mitabel Yerushalayim. Right, person who just works the way through and doesn't have mourning on Yerushalayim. Eino ro'eh b'simchata, will not see eventually their happiness. Shneimar simchu Yerushalayim v'gilu ba, that you should be happy with Yerushalayim v'gilu ba, and be glad with her. Kol ohaveha, those who love her. Sisu ata mesos kol ha-misva'abelim aleha, and rejoice for joy with her, all that mourn for her. So there's a connection between the Avelos. Mikan amru, so here we're going to see as number 2 on the page in the underline. Mikan amru koya she'ein mitabel de'ein muforish ma'on sho. In this pasuk we see that those who are mitabel, they will rejoice in the simcha. But what about those who are not mitabel? So the Gemara says, Mikan amru, from this pasuk you could deduce, Shekol mis'abel Yerushalayim zochev ro'eh b'simchata, and the opposite. It's not just that you're par, but she'eino mitabel Yerushalayim eino ro'eh b'simchata. That's going to be the opposite. So the Gemara here, though, is mentioning, and this is the people like to ask, Kol mis'abel Yerushalayim zochev ro'eh b'simchata. So that's wrong grammatically. What should it be? Kol mitabel Yerushalayim yir'eh, right? Future tense. You mitabel now because it's not here. So yir'eh in the future, yir'eh v'yizkeh b'simchata. So Chassam Sofer in his Drashot and also the Torah Tamira in Tosefet Bracha. I couldn't find the book, but the Tosefet Bracha, they both asked this question as far as why does it say Zochev or Ro'eh, which is present tense, that's off on the tenses over here. Also, if you look in number 3, Halacha, Ein Omrim Tachanun on Erev Tisha B'Av B'Mincha. Why not? Mishum Te'ikre Moed. It's called a Moed. It's a holiday, so we don't do Tachanun. V'Yemu Shabbos Ein Omrim Tzidkas Chatzedek. Same reason. Alright, and that's the minhagim that we do till today. And why is it called a Moed? The Beis HaMikdash is destroyed. What kind of a Moed could it possibly be? So number 4, the Aruch HaShulchan tells us the standard approach by Inyan Hu L'Siman. Ke'anu muftachim b'Hashem Yisbarach she'od yitapchu hayamim ha'ela l'moadim. Because part of Tisha B'Av is that eternally Jewish hope for the future. Now we know these days are going to flip around to be those of a Moed v'simcha b'yamim tovim. So because to recognize that tikvah, maybe to teach us that tikvah within Am Yisrael, so we call it a Moed, and therefore we don't have Tachanun. Okay. So that's the standard approach. You don't like it. I see. Okay. It doesn't help with the fact it's not a Moed now, right? So the approach of the Chassam Sofer and others is the following. Yeah?
Isn't the word Moed mentioned in Eicha?
Yeah. Okay, but still, so why? Why would it be Moed? What's the source of the Moed? So this is what they say in their approach. We have a cloud. If you look at number 5 on the page, that by Yikra Yaakov Simlotav, when Yaakov hears that or sees the ripped garment of Ketonet Pasim of Yosef, by Yosem Sak b'Masnad, by Yisabel Abano Yamim Rabim. So Yaakov was an avelus for Yosef. By Yukumu Kol Banav V'Chol B'Nosav L'Nachamo, and everyone came to give him Nechama, Menachemim. But he refuses to accept the nechama. That I'm gonna, for the rest of his life, he's going to be an avelus for his son. And he just continued to mourn over the loss of Yosef. Now Rashi alludes to actually a Bereshis Rabbah. Rashi mentions over here that number 6 that ein adam mekabel tanchumim alachai v'savur shemet. Shalameit nigzera gzera sheyishtakach min alev v'lo alachai. What Rashi's referencing over here is the Medrash Rabbah, Matrona Shalat Rabbi Yossi. So there's a nobility, a maiden of nobility that asked Rabbi Yossi. Amrlo, she said, Ksiv ki Yehuda gavar be'achav. Yehuda was great amongst his. We would say in modern Hebrew, we would say what? We still say it. He's a gever. He was a gever. Yehuda's the leader. Uksi vayinachem Yehuda vayal goes to say no. And it says at some point Yehuda accepted Tanchumim. At some point the Abelis has to end, and therefore he finally goes up and starts to go back to work with shearing the sheep. So says this Matrona to Rabbi Yossi, Ze Avim Shel Kulam. Yehuda is the leader of all of them. Vayimayin Lesnachem. At some point he stops his Abelis. So what about, and yet we see Vayimayin Lesnachem that Yaakov Avinu never accepts it. We see that's not appropriate. We know that's not appropriate. The Gemara in Baba Basra talks even about the Abelis on the Beis HaMikdash, and that the Jewish people accept upon themselves at the very beginning, really extreme matters. And at some point Chazal walk it back because they say you can't live in Abelis the entire life. So also over here, what happened with Yaakov Avinu? So there the Medrash says, Omar la misnachamim ala meisim ve'em misnachamim ala chayim. So what's the Medrash mean over here? Why is it? It's some kind of if you want to get into, they say it's a feeling. It was a feeling that there is, naturally speaking, that the spirit, the neshama that is no longer here, the person forgets about it. It's misnachim. That's why Hashem built the world. If we didn't have shikha for that, we wouldn't be able to continue. We wouldn't be able to continue living. But what happens? The fact that, and Yaakov, I guess, had a sense, he couldn't, it's what's the horse and what's the cart. He couldn't accept the nechama. He couldn't accept the nechama. He felt that something was off. He felt that Yosef was still alive. And therefore he continued with the Avelis. Why would it be that you continue to be misabel on that which is alive? He doesn't know for sure, but how come that works like that spiritually? because then you continue to search out for the person. You continue to see what you could do to bring him back. Yaakov had this feeling that Yosef was alive. He never could accept the Avelis. A Ruach HaKodesh of some sort, yeah. So that's what Rashi's referring to, this Medrash over here. So this is what they say over here in the Eight Yosef. The Eight Yosef explains it also. Number 7. You know that at some point it's not going to help you. And God programmed us like that. That's the hard wiring. That there's no Yadush Ein Toelis B'Daga. To have that, mourning, the Daga, the worry, to continue on, there's no purpose in it. It's not going to help. אבל החיים שלא יסיישו מבקשתם לא יתנחמו כי הזיכרון מהם לתועלת שישתדלו בבקשתו. But even like say in situations when the person, it's alive, the person's alive, but just beyond your reach, but you never give up hope because eventually maybe you could try to work out something. Or in this case, the Ruach HaKodesh, Yaakov had this feeling that Yosef was still alive.
Yaakov never saw God. There was circumstantial evidence. There could always be a second.
Okay, on a very rational level. Let's just say, keep on the rational level, you could say that as well. Because he didn't want to accept it, and he didn't have to.
But also, it seems like he had Ruach HaKodesh, but he lost his power of the Ruach, because it says you have to be the Simcha when you have this, but it's like a dance where you have to just overcome with that doubt and then move forward to get back to the Simcha.
Yeah, and he gets back afterwards, right? At the end of Vayechi, Parshas Vayechi, Yeah, it's all true. So what do we see from this, though, that when something's alive? Yes?
Unless Yaakov was troubled, why couldn't he forget Yosef? Because he's an Ishamuna.
Yes.
A man of Amuna has to accept reality.
Yes. So he couldn't accept it because he was still alive. So we're going to bounce either between the rational or the metaphysical over here, but they're both true. Everything's true. And therefore, that you see that when something's alive, then you can't accept Avelis on it. And that's why this is the Chassam Sofer. Flip the page. We're moving along because there's a lot to do. Number 8 on your page, this is what the Chassam Sofer says. You get the second page already. Number 8. That's what they mean in the Gemara when it says Kol HaMetaber al Yerushalayim. If you're going to have mourning on Yerushalayim, Zoche v'ro'eh b'simchata. That you see it now, and you Zoche, you merit now to on the happiness. Well, Amru, what does that mean? The fact that we are still able, 2,000 years later, to be mourning on Sunday. We're going to be mourning. Even now we're mourning, right? We can't take hot showers. So even now, no simchas, no chasnas. The fact that we're mourning after 2,000 years and it's still, and this is like meant to be not just a figure of speech. Yerushalayim's still alive for the Jewish people. And the fact that that's why we're mourning on it. And that gives us the nechama and the simcha. There really is a simcha right away, even now. That this Avelis in Yerushalayim that still rises in our neshamas, pag, and doesn't die out, for so many generations, moral and metut tikvatenu. It shows how emistic, how real is our hope for the future. V'siman hu shatita Yerushalayim l'shuv eleinu, and it's a siman that in the future Yerushalayim is going to come back. Shilulei kein hayta nishkachat mimenu kemeit hamishtakach min alei. Because if not, then Yerushalayim would have been forgotten. Ubezeniv dalnu mishar ha'umot. That's why we're different from the rest of the nations of the world. Shishar ha'umot k'shabach chorban aleihem. That when they see a destruction, einam mekayavim ad ot she'harisoteim yavnu. They don't have the hope for the future that's going to be rebuilt. They forget about their glorious past. And we hope that Hashem's going to build it. Yerushalayim is alive with us all the time. It's alive. And that's why Zoche v'ro'eh b'simchata. We already see it. It might not be in front of our face, but it's here. We already see it. We're lucky, right? Nowadays, Shechiyanu b'kimanu, that should be part of it. When you go down, I switched now to go in the morning. I used to go towards the end of the fast, you guys are locals. I have to come in from Shalavin. I used to come in the morning. I used to come in at the night. Anybody been at the kotel towards the end of the day? Like you give that last effort and you come down there, the place is bopping, right? And then I think the NCSY call comes in and they're sitting around and they're singing. It's very beautiful. It's very hard to stay in Tisha B'Av mode. And then of course you start running into people non-stop. It's like tashlich on steroids down at the kotel on Tisha B'Av. And it's very hard. So everybody's like sort of like, you're trying not to be too happy, but it's fun to see people after a couple of years. So I now moved into the earlier in the afternoon. Also I found with Mincha, there's no place to put my tefillin. So I come earlier, we say a couple of kapitla of tefillin, we go home. I come early. Even in the early, you're walking through the shuk, like you see people you haven't seen in a while, but at that hour already, you're walking, what do? Usually people just nod at each other and see you on better times. We'll see you up on top, right? That's what you say. I'll see you when we could go up on top. And but we're fortunate for us. Yerushalayim's alive. Yeah, we got to take care of a little business still on the top over there. But Yerushalayim for sure is alive for us. It's a different Zochev Simchata. So that's the Chassam Sofer over here. The Torah Tamima also says similarly. And which again just explains why we're still always involved in talking about Yerushalayim. Because for us it's something that we osake in all the time. Because for us it's not a history lesson. It's something that's very much alive. So there's a topic I have to give thanks to Tor Mitzia, and I have to thank Daniela. She's not here because she called me up, said you're on for this today, and then she said that it has to be about Tisha B'Av. So I said, how many times can you talk about Kriya in different situations? So this is something different, and like I said, last night was the last of the pieces. But it's a nice topic, and we're going to work on that a little bit for the time remaining. So it says like this. We know there's a big discussion as far as whether or not Yerushalayim was nitchalek lashvatim. Meaning what? That when Yeshua came into Eretz Yisrael and they split up the land, right? 7 years they fought. 7 years they split up the land, the Nachalot. At that point, what happened to Yerushalayim exactly? Was that split up amongst the Shvatim?
No.
No.
So 2.5 tribes stayed on the other side.
2.5 on the other side. So there's plenty of room, you're saying? No, but like it's prime real estate.
We didn't conquer Yerushalayim.
So we didn't conquer Yerushalayim. Everything you guys it's all true, whatever you're saying. It seems like we didn't conquer, but how do you say that?
It says the pasuk says below Yachul.
Oh, that means we wanted to conquer it.
Below Yachul, Rishon Yehusi.
Nachon, but that means we did want to conquer it.
Because we failed.
But so we failed in a lot of places in Eretz Yisrael. So that's what you're saying actually is a proof that it was tried a couple of times. In Sefer Yoshua it says that Yehuda conquered it, burnt it down. Sefer Shoftim says it's still part of the Yevusi, and that Binyamin weren't able to. It seems like it is being contested or being tried to be conquered by two of the tribes. It would seem like it. But then again, you might say that it was not split up. Is it split up? Not split. Why would it not be split up? What's a simple svara?
Like Washington, D.C.
Oh, you're fair. Like Washington, D.C., right? Washington, D.C. was Dafka meant to be everybody's. It's united. I think on the page, just don't lose your place. If you look on, if you look on page 5, at number 1 on page 5, or second actually, here's a svara that it should not be split up. Why? Because in Dvarim, Moshe's talking, Elah chukim v'mishpatim, number 1 on page 5. Elah chukim v'mishpatim asher tishmeru la'asot ba'aretz, asher natan Hashem Elokei avotecha l'chol v'yishtok kol yamim asher timchayim al adamah. So this is the chukim, and then he gets into Abei Tabdun Kol Mekamot. You got to wipe out the Avodah Zarah. And next pasuk, nitatz them is bizvachotam, and break up their altars. V'ibadatem et shmam. One line before the end of number 1. Lo tasu kin Hashem Elokeichem, that you should go up to these mountains to do the mizbachot and the asherot and everything that's over there. Last line, ki im el hamakom asher yichar Hashem Elokeichem mikol shivteichem lasum et shmo sham l'shichnot tidreshu bat hashama. Because the place that God is going to choose from all of the Shvatim together, Mikol Shetechem, that's where he's going to place his name, and that's where you should go up, that's where you should be Doresh. You have to go search it out. So what do you mean Mikol Shetechem? from all of the Shvatim. So from here, there's actually a source. This is actually a source to say, what do you mean that the place that Hashem wants us to come to? In other words, Yerushalayim, the Beis HaMikdash. Not Yerushalayim, Beis HaMikdash. What does it mean, Mikol Shiftechem? It's got to be like offered up from all, it's a piece of all the Shvatim. So that's one of the proofs. This is one of the proofs that says that Yerushalayim was never nischalek, l'shvatim. It belonged to all of us. It belonged to all of Am Yisrael. And it seems that there's a numerous, that's one of the references. Yeah?
How do you read it as, out of all the tribes, this is the one that Hashem chose to be the place?
Yeah, Mikol Shiftech, God's going to choose us from all the Shvatim. How do you have that?
Out of all of the different places for all the Shvatim, this is the one place He chose.
This is the one place He chose. But that's not, Mikol Shiftech, I don't know if that's how you read it. It's Mikol Shiftech, that's the drasha. Mikol Shiftech, that comes from all of them. Kol. Lashon of Kol. So that there are two tzadim. We could see it, and we're going to have proofs in both ways. But to start off with, let's look at number 9. Go back to our original page. We're going to look at number 9. So again, I'm not going to be reading everything because there's a lot here. Just to give us a sense of it, in Sefer Yehoshua, after the kibush of the 7 years, then we get to the middle of the Parak in Perek Tesvav. You're going to start seeing a number that they're going to go through. That's why Yehoshua gets a little bit boring, right? In the middle there. Perek Tesvav and onwards is just they're splitting up the whole land into the different tribes. And they're giving you, and this tribe's gvul was from here to there to there. Usually it's pretty sparse. Like it gives you a number of a general understanding where the Shvatim, where the gvulot, the borders of each shevet was. That's how it usually is written. Except when you get to Yerushalayim, or the border between Binyamin and Yehuda. Okay? Because Yerushalayim is on the border between Binyamin and Yehuda. Our discussion is going to be whether or not it was not part of either of them, or whether it was part of both of them. That's going to be the machlokes. Again, was it split up amongst the shvatim or not? But that's where it's located. And look at these psukim. Number 9 on your page. We're not going to do all, but Alei Hagvul Divra Me'emek Achor B'Tzafona Poneh El Gilgal Shenochach Lamale Adumim Hashem Negev. It starts going through piece by piece exactly where the border went. And it continues on. It's in very long details over here. It's like the psukim want us to get it down exactly. Now, some of these places we identify today, some not. If you look at the little map over here, there's a very fine Talmud Chacham and historian named Eyal Davidson. At the very end of this page, I gave you the sources where you could continue looking up the topics. All right, Eyal Davidson, he has gives Siyurim. He also has a website which has a lot of fascinating stuff on him. Just another one of those people know Yerushalayim well. So this I copied from him, and I got this map off of him also. And if you take a look, you could see on this map, it says Binyamin Yehuda, smack in the middle. You see where it says Ein Shemesh, yeah. Now you see Malei Adumim, right? Do you see that? That's actually in the black script. Malei Adumim. And that's really till today. That's Highway 1 as it goes past Malei Adumim down to Beit Chogla. We had today a Beit Chogla. That's down at the Dead Sea. If you come up Highway 1, which on this thing is called Malei Adumim, where you get to, it says in black script writing, Gei Ben Hinnom, and what's that? Emek Rephaim. So we know where that is, right? We all have that down. Where is it going to be that... where is it? Gei Ben Hinnom meets up with Emek Rephaim. Where? Tachana Rishona. At what is it they have over there? Lechem Basar. Next time you sit down, Lechem Basar, know exactly where you are. It's mentioned right here that that's going to be Emek Rephaim is going to continue. It's built up today, but originally Emek Rephaim was an Emek, was a valley. It's going to continue on straight. Where does Emek Rephaim lead us into? Gets to the Tanakh, the zoo, the Echumim Ganachayot Tanachi. The Nachal Sarek, the original train tracks from 1892. Oh, to Tachana Rishonah. You guys live this because you all live around here, right? But the Mesilot that are coming from Tachana Rishonah is going down Emek Rephaim, is eventually going to get into the zoo and eventually go down in the Vadi that would take us all the way to Tel Aviv. And that was the original train from 1892 from the Turkish. Last, flame went up before it puffed out. So that's going to, and now Gay Ben Hinnom, right, is going to take us, right, it goes, but it also continues upwards, and you can see, if you go towards the left of this map, Kiryat Yearim, Kisalon, that's where Highway 1 is today.
What?
So, Highway 1, as it leaves Yerushalayim and heads towards, it's going to pass Kiryat Yearim, it's going to pass Tel Stone, then makes the turn and heads down the hill. So that line, when Highway 1 is on the ridge, before it heads down towards Shar Hagai, that's like near Kisalon, Nachal Kisalon. All right, that's on the map here. So this is clearly Yehuda and Binyamin. So it's written out very clear where the Gvulot are. And it would seem, therefore, that Yerushalayim is somewhere between Binyamin and Yehuda. The question is, as you, sir, Larry, right, that mentioned is that it seems that it was, it's not clear, was it Binyamin or was it Yehuda? So if you look at number 10 on your page, this is a medrash, a later medrash, that actually picks up on the problem of where is going to be Yerushalayim, the Mikdash. K'tuv echad omer, v'eta yevusi yoshvei Yerushalayim lo yochlu b'nei Yehuda lahorisham. That's in Yehoshua. The b'nei Yehuda were not successful in getting rid of the Yevusi. The Eir Yevusi is going to hang around until David HaMelech comes and conquers it. So therefore, we see that Yehuda's trying to conquer. If they're trying to conquer it, then whose Shevet is going to be Eir Yevus? Shevet Yehuda. That's why they're trying to conquer it. That's a Shoftim. So it would seem like it's Binyamin. In B'nai, it's someplace else that it says that they burnt it down, right? And then they left it. Very not clear. In B'nai Binyamin, Lamba B'nai Yehuda. In B'nai Yehuda, Lamba B'nai Binyamin. So what kind of mention? Why am I mentioning both Shvatim? So here's a suggestion. El Barishana Hayata Yerushalayim Shtei Ayarot. There was two cities to it. Achat El Yonah v'Achat Tachtona. There was the upper Yerushalayim and the lower Yerushalayim. Ha'el Yonah nafla b'goral Yehuda. The upper city of Yerushalayim was part of Yehuda. V'Tachtona b'goral Binyamin. And then we're going to bring proofs for it. Sela Elef Yevusi Yerushalayim zot nafla b'nei Binyamin. Achar mitat Yehoshua. After Yehoshua died, Alu b'nei Yehuda v'lakhu el chalkam. They did conquer. V'sarfu et ha'ir be'esh, and they burnt down the city v'azvu chareva, and they left it like destroyed. And that's what you do find in Shoftim also. It mentions Yehuda. Ava Yerushalayim ha'tachtona she'ayta b'goral shel Binyamin, lo avu b'nei Binyamin lahorisham, el shata she'ayta omedet ad yemei David. And it was there till David conquers it. And so Bnei Binyamin didn't do their part to take the lower Yerushalayim. When David comes, he starts building the upper Yerushalayim. So then David then builds a wall around it. It's hard to understand what they're referring to in this medrash. What's the upper and what's the lower? Okay, that's the big question over here. It can't be north-south.
It can't be north-south, but it's opposite.
Oh, but yet they say, what they say over here, that the lower one is Binyamin. Just want to point this out. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. All of you are very right. And I can't resist. And they canned me. I used to show you, we used to travel around the country a little bit. They told me I can't do that. Because it's like more, we have to do shiurim, there's a base medrash. But I couldn't resist. I had to bring in. So this, by the way, they still sell it. This is a wonderful sefer that is by, what's it? It's by Aaron Horowitz. It's about the city of David. It looks like a coffee, coffee table sefer? But it's really not. It has great pictures, but it's really excellent and talks about the history of Yerushalayim. If it's still in print, you can get, I think, still down at the city of David, at the museum over there. So anyway, these pictures are from his. So what do we got over here, right? Like, everyone can see somewhat. This is going to be the Ir HaYavus, the city of David of today. Okay? Can you see that? Now this is going to be the city of David with Har Moriah. All right? Now what we're going to assume is going to be this. That if you're going to tell me, I just want to show you one more thing. Okay. If I have, so if Yerushalayim is right here in the middle, right? So we know that Yehuda is where? It's this whole lower area. And then Binyamin's going to be, it's the same as the map right over here.
Yep.
So the question is what this medrash is saying about the Elyonah and the Tachtona. It's hard to understand. Because if I'm looking at this, I would assume that Hara Moriah is going to be the Elyonah. And the Ir Yavus is going to be the Tachtona. But the Ir Yavus, according to this medrash, belongs to Binyamin. And the Elyonah is to Yehuda. So something's off over here. It's hard to understand. Now, Dr. Eyal Davidson. Dr. Davidson says.
What are we talking about? Like elevation. That one the other. Marie is up, and the other is down.
So therefore, this we also do know, because you guys what you would therefore say is you might want to suggest is that this we said that the Tachtona we said was Binyamin. And the Elyonah is not here, but it's going to be what we call today Shar Tzion. And you're going to make this still part of Yehuda. And the border somehow went like this. I guess the border comes in. You could say there's the transversal, this is Yehuda, the transversal valley which goes through the middle of, which is the Shuk of today. And in the old city. And then I guess it connected up with the Tyropian Valley, and it came around somehow like this, and then continues like that, something like that. Because you think about it, if you're at the Kotel and you're on the road, even on the stairs, if you want to get from the Kotel and you want to go up the stairs, you get to Burger's Bar on the top, right? All my references is food. I'm like American, hanging out with 18-year-olds all day. So, but if you do this, let's say you're on the road, Nachon? You're at the Kotel and you're walking back up the Shar Tzion. That's somewhat of a hill, and that's what you're saying, the elevation. Maybe that's what they mean. This is Binyamin, this is Yehuda. So that's hard to understand that as well. Why not? Because we don't have any, to our best of our knowledge, at the time of David HaMelech, there was nobody living on what we call today Shar Tzion. There's nothing up there. So it's hard to understand. We're still stuck with this as far as what exactly, we're not sure what this medrash was saying over here, but what they are, so we don't know what they're saying exactly. He happens to mention this Dr. Eyal Davidson. He says, it's interesting, he said he found somebody, there was a Kabbalist from the 1600s who did mention that they have a Kabbalah that Yerushalayim is split between Yehuda and Binyamin. We're going to see that. Excellent. We're going to see that in a moment. That it is split, and that there is one shul in Yerushalayim that has demarcates the shul. It's sitting right on the line. So he just writes. Eyal Davidson is very cute. He just says in the 1600s, probably about the only Beit Knesset that would have been there is what today we call the Ramban shul. Whether it's the Ramban shul or not, that's a discussion, but it would be probably that structure. And he just wonders whether or not the Amudim that go down the middle of the Ramban shul, is that the demarcation between Shevet Binyamin and Shevet Yehuda. Cute. It's nice and cute. That's good for Cholent on Shabbos, okay? I gave you that. But so this is what happens, Lamaisa. But we do see, according to this medrash, that it was split. That Yerushalayim was split between Yehuda and Binyamin. And the truth is, this is machlokes. Yeah.
You said at the beginning of the explanation on number 10 that Yehuda tried to conquer it and make claim as it.
It seems that.
Now, does that mean that each tribe conquered their own nachala?
Yes.
Not everybody did everybody's. In which case, what was the problem with the Shnei Shvatim v'Chetzi? Everybody needs to conquer their own portion.
What happened is that, first of all, that at the beginning of Sefer Yeshua, you see that they do go out at the beginning as an army. And then, at the end of Yeshua's lifetime, they not all the pockets of the Canaanim Shivas Amim have been conquered. And there's even a pasuk to the fact that Hashem says, I'm going to leave it over as a nisayon for Am Yisrael to see if they'll do what they're supposed to. So even though it says that Yeshua did organize that we conquered the land, which is most of it, but not everything. And yes, each shevet had their own challenge to go and to conquer the rest of their shevet, and they weren't successful. And that's exactly how Sefer Shoftim begins.
Could you imagine that all the Shvatim would help conquer all the areas?
Why wasn't it like that? So it seems that this is the continuation of the forcing of Am Yisrael to mature, and that each shevet had to take their responsibilities, like kids. Each shevet was responsible for their own lands. And you'll also see that each shevet had to come onto their own and provide leadership for everybody, which is the medrash about in Sefer Shoftim, that it's really like popcorn. Each one of the Shoftim that's mentioned in Sefer Shoftim is coming from a different shevet. It's part of the development of Am Yisrael. Yeah, the problem with the other tribes, what happens if they wouldn't have asked for that area on the Ever Yarden? So you would have had to shove a bunch more into Eretz Yisrael.
There's a medrash, dividing between Beit Kodesh HaKodeshim.
Oh, excellent. That's
it belongs to everybody, so the Beit Kodesh on the border there.
That's exactly. This is like you're planted in the audience, right? Because that's the segue into number 11.
Remember, you spoke to me half an hour.
It cost me a lot of money. I don't think that's really so fair. I want back. Okay, number 11. That leads us to number 11. It's Maseches Yuma. This is a serious discussion. But my commithlagi. So the Gemara over there is the midst of conversation about Negam, I think. And they say, the argument there is, Tana Kama Sava Yerushalayim Lo Nischalka Shvatim. The Yerushalayim was not split up amongst the Shvatim. It was left from the beginning as a little bit of an area. Rabbi Yehuda Sava Yerushalayim Nischalka Shvatim, and if it was split amongst the Shvatim, therefore it could get Negaim. We'll get back to this matter. Ubeplugta Tahani Tani Tanai, and these guys are arguing over the same machlokas that we have in the following brisa. The Tanya Me'aya Bechalko Shel Yehuda. So what was in the chelik of Yehuda and what was in the chelik of Binyamin? So truthfully, that this over here, the way that it does split, obviously, is that the city of David is part of Yehuda. Okay? And the city, and over here, this area is going to be, at some place, in other words, the Gvul is going to come down like this, and at some place, I'm not sure where, we're going to discuss that right now, at some place, the Gvul of Yehuda, this is Binyamin, this is Yehuda, and at some place the Gvul is actually going to, probably along Nachal Kidron, go up Malay Zaytim, and then hit to get up onto the Highway 1, head down to, on the other side of Har Zaytim, you get into the Highway 1 that goes through Malay Adumim. Okay, that's been since the beginning of time. Those vadis are where the roads run, and that's going to be your natural border between different shvatim. The question is that if the border is coming up like this, it's going to go into Har Moriah. At what point does it cross over Har Moriah? So that's what our Gemara is discussing right now. In other words, it's going to come here. Here you have Ke'ilu Shezemelech Shlomo, the Beis Hamikdash Rishon. So it's coming up. The border is coming like this, and it's going to extend like this. All right. It's coming right across probably some of the vadis, maybe the transversal valley, and at some point it's going to head up towards Malay Adumim. The question is, where exactly is it crossing over inside the Beis Hamikdash? That's what's being discussed right over here now. So they say the following. Maya b'chalko Yehuda, Har Habayis, Halishkot, V'Hazarot. So that's going to be, if I have over here, this is going to be coming from Ir David, this is going to be the south, this is going to be the north, east, and west. Okay, so this, I'm sorry.
South.
Yeah, this is south.
South.
East, north, and west. So I'm coming up from the city of David, which is in the south. And I'm going to come in, I have all the Azarot over here, I have Ezras Yisrael still over here. So this is all part of Shevet Yehuda. All of this. Okay? This is part of Shevet Binyamin. Seder, that's how it splits. This is going to be Yehuda. This is going to be Binyamin. The truth is that originally Shevet Yehuda is going to come up like this. Okay? It's going to include the Mizbeach. That's originally as planned. Now look what happens. This is so much fun. Umaya b'chalko shel Binyamin. So what was by him? The ulam, the main structure of the front structure of the mikdash itself. The heichal ubeis kodesh hakodeshim. So it means that this whole building is part of Binyamin. What happened? Binyamin was very upset. Oh, this is such a musar shmooze. Okay? Binyamin. And there was a little strip of land that actually was sort of in Binyamin. And there's where the altar was built. Binyamin was so upset. How could it be that he doesn't have the Mizbeach in his? He has the Mikdash, but he has to have the Mizbeach. That's where all the avodas Hashem is going on. Shneimar chofeif alav kol hayom, as it says chofeif alav. Now, this pasuk means that what? That God is always hovering over chofeif alav, hovering over Binyamin. There's a bracha to this pasuk is from the brachas to Binyamin. Speak for Moshe. So, but they're learning it as chofeif alav, that he's mitchachechito, that it's rubbing up against it, that Binyamin's rubbing up against this issue. He wants the Mizbeach to be part of him, and it bothered him so much that he should have be the source for the avodas Hashem. Lefichach, therefore, zacha Binyamin atzadik, v'naseh ushpischan legvura. Somehow there was a change of plans, and he actually got Shneimar uben ktefav, who said ben ktefav shochein. Somebody mentioned over here that it says that Hashem's going to rest between his shoulders in Binyamin.
But isn't the Kodesh Kodeshim the holiest aspect of the man? And isn't that what his inheritance was?
So Kodesh Kodeshim obviously does have, like you're right, your question is right, there's Kodesh Kodeshim. But the avodah on a daily basis, right, avodas Hashem, the constant avodas Hashem is going to be there on the Mizbeach, and he wanted that. And therefore, what does he say? The other Tana Savar Yerushalayim lo nischakal shvatim. He has a different proof. The Tanya, we learned in a Brisa, ein maskirin batim b'Yerushalayim lefi she'eina shalahen. Anybody who lived in Yerushalayim was not allowed to rent out their homes because it wasn't theirs to rent. It belonged to everybody. So that's their machlokas, a machlokas that goes back very, very much. Now the extension of this will be that if you do say that, this already, I don't know if might be hard to see it. It is hard to see it. All right, whatever. This is the Mizbeach. I don't know if you could see it. The dark gray is Binyamin. The Mizbeach originally was outside of Binyamin, was part of Yehuda. Around the base of the Mizbeach was a square, 32 by 32 at its base. The base was a little platform about 1 amma tall. Out of the 10 amot of the Mizbeach was 1 amma tall, and that base, that little amma, that was called the Yesod. Interestingly, the Yesod on the Mizbeach was found looped around only on the northern side, on the western side, and on the southern side. That's where the Yesod was, and it scooped around a little bit towards the east and towards the north. But for the most part, on the northern side and the southern side of the Mizbeach, there was no Yesod. Why? Because that's exactly where the border went. You want to know where the border went? Down to 1 amma, it hit up against the Mizbeach. And therefore, being that the Mizbeach is supposed to be in its entirety is going to be in Binyamin, Binyamin had not only the Mizbeach itself, but also the Yesod. The entire Mizbeach was in it. The further side, it's both the southern side and the eastern side of the Mizbeach, that was Yehuda's, and it was missing a piece of the bottom. That's the machlokas that comes up over here. However, so we have a machlokas in the Gemara. What the Gemara concludes, though, is going to be, let's take a look. Sefer Dan, nope. What the Gemara concludes is going to be number 12 on your page. Yerushalayim mikudeshet, says the Rambam. Yerushalayim mikudeshet mishara yerot hamukafot chama. And obviously Yerushalayim has the city itself has within it greater kedusha, thus allowing us, what comes to mind? Because of the greater kedusha, what are we allowed to do in Yerushalayim that you can't do elsewhere? Maser Sheni, Kachim Kalim, right? Korban Pesach. You could eat korbanos in Yerushalayim, certain korbanos in Yerushalayim. And then in addition, ve'ein habayit nechlat ba. Again, you can't own the house. Ve'eino mitamei b'negaim. You're not allowed to. There's no nigei habayit. There's no negaim of the bias in Yerushalayim. Where do you see that? Look at number 1:12:1. Ki tavo al eretz Canaan asher ani noten lechem. You come to Eretz Yisrael. La'achuzah that God's giving us to as an achuzah. Natati negetzaras bebeis eretz achuzatchem. In the land, what's the word achuzatchem? That you hold, your holdings. Being that we didn't hold Yerushalayim, it wasn't private, it wasn't ours. It was all of the Shvatim owned it. So therefore, there was no Tumas Negaim Babayit in Yerushalayim. Ve'ena naseit ir hanidachat. That is also, if somebody found it doesn't become an ir nidachat. Ve'ena, also based on Psukim, ve'ena mivia egla arufa. What's the egla arufa? Find a dead body outside of town. You don't know who killed it, right? So the elders of the town have to do a tekes. So that day, there was no egla arufa in Yerushalayim either. Why not? Number 12:2. Ki yimtzei chalal ba'adama she'Hashem Elokecha noten lecha l'rishta. All right. And again, there's psukim about it that it has to be Yerusha for you, and this is for everybody. So there's, and the Rambam concludes lefi shalom nitzchal kol shvatim, and that is the conclusion in the Gemara. Okay. Shir Amalos, and that's why, again, Tehillim 13, Shemash David, Samachti Bromim Mi Beis Hashem Neilech, Lamdoto Yoragleim Shrach Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim Abenuya Ki'ir Shechubra La Yachtav, Shamalu Shvatim Shivteka, Idut Yisrael Adot L'Shem Hashem. It's this idea, obviously you could use this, the conclusion is a very beautiful Hashkafa discussion as well, that Yerushalayim is given over to all of Shivteka, was never belonging. It would seem, I asked this on my tour guiding WhatsApp. We also have the tour guiding WhatsApp has a sub WhatsApp group that's called Daf Yomi for tour guides. I don't know if anybody would enjoy it so much unless you're like they ask based on the Gemara. They always have these discussions, that really funny discussions about like from the Daf Yomi. But often there's historical and structural, archaeological discussions. So I put on this morning. I asked. According to what we conclude over here, that Yerushalayim is lo nischal kol shvatim, so what about the Mizbeach? Wouldn't the Mizbeach have the Yesod that goes all the way around? Right? It's not, there's no Shevet Yehuda that's bordering on the Mizbeach. There's no reason to take a piece of the Mizbeach off. You're going to tell me that the Maseches Midos, when they discuss the Mizbeach, that is according to just one man to Amar? I know mistama, right? It's mitbakesh like gid kacha. So I asked the guys. I didn't see if they answered me or not yet. So kacha zeh. But it's fun to do that. So that's how we're going to conclude at this point. I'll just tell you in a second if they answered. And the answer is that nobody answered me. That's the answer. The answer. Oh, wait a second. I do not understand your point.
The Mizbeach is no man's land. That is the spiritual flame.
That's how we're concluding. But that's because we're assuming that it doesn't belong to anybody, and it's a beautiful concept, right? But according to the Mandomer, who says that it's nechlach between Binyamin and Yehuda, so you had to actually that's where the border was. You had to take a piece of the Mizbeach off that was on Yehuda's side because the Mizbeach in its entirety only belongs to Binyamin. So I'm just saying that if you do paskin that the Nachala is that Yerushalayim's lo nitchal kol shvatim, there's no reason to take a piece off the Mizbeach. That makes sense, right?
That was around the Mizbeach, not the Mizbeach.
No, it's part of the Mizbeach. That's the Yesod. 32 on 32 starts with that Yesod. Interesting stuff. Okay, so everything's fine and dandy now, right? We're all good? Yep. Except for the fact that we're running out of time. That's one problem. And the other problem is if you have to go to page number 5. Alrighty? On page number 5, everything is good except Rav Shechter in his Sefer Eretz HaTzvi, I think it is, or Bikvot Rav Shechter in his Sefer Bikvei Atzon. He just points out there's one problem. Even if you conclude that Yerushalayim lo nischalek l'shvatim, here's the problem. Look at number 2. All right, a beautiful Gemara. Also, it's Gemara in Zvachim. Dorash Rava, my dichtiv, Vayelech David Shmuel, Vayeshvu b'Nayot Barama. That David and Shmuel were sitting Nayot. At this point, it sounds like a town. Birama. In this, the Ramah is a heightened area. Nayot Eitzel Ramah, right? What is, if you're either in the Ramah or you're in Nayot, which town are you in? Ela, these are Ramazim. Shayu Yoshvim Barama. They were up there in the Ramah, that's right next to Yerushalayim. Oskin b'Noyo Shalolam, and Noyot is a reference to that as the beauty, the glory of the world, which is obviously going to be the Mikdash. They're talking about the Mikdash. They're sitting there and talking about the Mikdash. Shmuel Haramati, right there. David was visiting Shmuel, his Rebbe there, in his home. They're talking about the Beis Hamikdash. Now, David Melech wanted to build the Beis Hamikdash. We always say that he didn't, because Shlomo. But David does build the base. What does he do in the Beis Hamikdash? Mar and Sukkah. He actually plants foundations, right? He gathers materials, but he actually does the foundations. That's the, huh? Divrei Yamim. And he what's it? Borrows down. He drills down in the Gemara and Sukkah. I know it's a pasuk in Masechet Sukkah, right? I mean, Shiva boy, right? So he drills down over there and he hits the Tahom, and the water's about to come up and flood the world. And that's why he throws in Shem Hashem. The waters drop, but they drop too far down. It's going to dry out the world. So then therefore he has to throw in a kapitel tehillim to raise it up. Every time he throws a kapitel tehillim, it comes up a little bit. It's ma'aleh. So he has to throw in 15, he has to get up 15 meters, shir hamalot. I'm not making it up. Take a look. It's in Masechet Sukkah. So that happens over here. They're discussing it. Amri k'tiv, v'kamta v'alita el hamakom. So it says you got to get up and go up towards the makom, towards the mikdash. Malamet shebeis hamikdash gavo mikol eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael gavo mikol haaretzot. It must be a very high place where you could find the Beis Hamikdash. V'lo havi yodei duchtei eicha. They didn't know where the Beis Hamikdash was supposed to be. Aisu Sefer Yoshua. They brought out Sefer Yoshua. Bekulu ksiv. By all of the shvatim, it's written by Yorad Hagvur. It's talking about the Gvulot. That the Gvur went down, Vata'ar Hagvur, and Gvur went up. But with Shevet Binyamin, all it's written over there is Va'alaktiv, Vayered Lokativ. It doesn't say anywhere that the Gvur, all you're talking about is going up at the Shevet Binyamin. Haraya, that Omri Shmamina, Hachahu Mikomo. That's it. It must be that Binyamin is the source, is the place where the Beis Hamikdash has to be built. Because it's the one that's the highest. Savor lemivne be'ein eitam. They thought they're going to build it in a place called Ein Eitam. I tried to get this. I couldn't on Wiki. They're putting it down in Shevet Yehuda is wrong. I couldn't find what Ein Eitam is. The midli, because it's very high up. Amri natati be kalil. Nitati be kalil. No, it has to be a little bit dropped. Tichtiv uben ktefav shachein. There's actually resting between the shoulders. So it's a little bit down. So they couldn't find out exactly where is the base. Now the question Rav Shechter was, it's basically Chasam Sofer. How could it be? What's their suffix? Didn't we just paskin that Yerushalayim lo nischalka l'shvatim? So you're splitting up the entire country. You're giving it out to everybody. Yet there's a little spot in the middle that you're not going to give it out to anybody, any of the shvatim. They knew exactly from the time of Yehoshua ben Nun exactly where the Beis Hamikdash was going to be. So what was the suffix that David and Shmuel had?
They had to find the highest place.
They had Mistama. They had that area. So you want to say within that area, but it sounds like they didn't know. Within Eretz Yisrael, they had no idea. Shiloh was out there further north. Sounds interesting. That's one question. Here's another question. In Baba Basra, number 3. V'lo nischalka ela b'kesef shenemar ben rav lema'at. So the Gemara there has a discussion. I'm just going to move us along. The Gemara has a discussion, but it says when they did split up the Nachlot, that it seems at first the Gemara suggesting that the ones who got Nachalot further away from Yerushalayim were paid compensation by the ones who got the Nachalot in Yerushalayim, because it was more valuable. Rabbi Yehuda, Sa'ab Yehuda, Shavet Chamesh Sa'in Begalil. Seems like Rabbi Yehuda is saying not that they actually had to pay out money, but that if you got a lot of land in Yerushalayim or around it, then in the north you got, your nachla would have been 5 times greater, because nothing has changed. The highest real estate value in Yerushalayim is crazy. It's more expensive than elsewhere, and it hasn't changed since then.
Yeah,
Why was it so much more expensive in Yerushalayim when they split up the land? So here the Rashbam says also, הקרקעות היו חולקים בשווה מי שלוקח מן הכחוש נוטל יותר עד כדמי היפה. אבל מי שעולה גורלו בקרוב לירושלים מעלה מאוד למי שעולה גורלו ברחוק מירושלים. You had to pay compensation שהרחוק גרוע הוא מפני שני דברים. If you're far from Yerushalayim, two things. אחד מפני שרחוק מבית המקדש ואחד מפני שקרוב הוא לארץ העמים. And the other thing is also you're further out near the border, so it gets a little more dangerous. Nothing has changed. Nothing's changed. So anyway, but here the Rashbam is pointing right away. They knew where the Beis HaMikdash is going to be. That's when they split up the land. That's in time of Yoshua. They already knew where the Beis HaMikdash is going to be. So how can that be? What is it? Yerushalayim lo nischalka. Tzadaka we say lo nischalka l'shvatim. They should have known, and also over here, what exactly they knew. They had some kind of inkling. So Rav Shechter wants to discuss the following. Rav Shechter mentions that there's two dinim to Yerushalayim. So one, obviously, is the din Yerushalayim is holding the Makom HaMikdash. But he says there's another aspect of Yerushalayim that's important within its own right. And if you take a look at number 4, Ashrecha Eretz Shemalkecha Ben Chorim. So, happy are you, O land whose king is a master. So the Zohar over here talks about Shamelech Shalah, that we're fortunate, this Ashrecha Eretz, the land itself is fortunate. Why? Shamelech Shalah hu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'nikra Ben Chorin. Why? Hashem shemishachrer et avadim ha'ivrim b'shnat ha'yovel v'av shemamidim. Okay. So then it's basically the idea pointing to is that Eretz Yisrael belongs, the Melech of Eretz Yisrael really is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When we put David HaMelech into place, it's David, it really is acting as, and this is what number 5 on the page is, a Mordechai. He goes to town, you can take it home and look at it, but you take it home. But he discusses there in the second paragraph, what would that be? Power of attorney, right? Bo koach shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shu HaMelech Hamiti shel Eretz Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu really is the Melech. David HaMelech and the Kisei shel Malchut HaKadosh Baruch Hu zeh Yerushalayim. David is the one who's assigned to be the Melech, but he's an extension of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why you'll see that there's a number of halachas that really focus us in on this matter. Number 6 on the page, if you flip it, is that you only are Moshe. You don't be Moshe. You only Moshech Malchus based David in Yerushalayim. You can't be Moshech any of the Malchut. I mean, who is it? Elisha or Eliyahu? Who's Moshech Yehu? There are cases when the Nevi'im are being Moshech, anointing kings in Shel Melech Yisrael, but they're not anointed in Yerushalayim. The only one to be anointed in Yerushalayim actually is going to be David HaMelech and his children. Because David HaMelech is what represents Kadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem decides that. And part and parcel with the settling of Yerushalayim is going to come as Malchus Beis David. It goes hand in hand because the settling of Yerushalayim is the Malchus of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and the one who is the power of attorney is going to be David. It's one building over here in this world of an example of Kisei Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's why also, when we say number 7 on your page, we talk about that in Birkat HaMazon, when we say Eretz HaTova Zeh Bonei Yerushalayim. That's why we had that bracha. And then afterwards, Rabbi Eliezer says we have to also include Malchus Beis David as Chelek Shel Bonei Yerushalayim. They go hand in hand with each other. In number 8 on the page, Tosfos Rid, it seems that there used to be, we didn't have it like this. We had 18 brachos. 2 of them was Es Tzemach David. We talked about David HaMelech, and then afterwards Bonei Yerushalayim, Bonei Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh. It seems that the Tosfos Rid mentions, and this is all the way up until the time of the Amoraim, that there were places that they only had 17 brachot in Shmona Asrei, and that Es Tzemach David and Bonei Yerushalayim was part of one bracha because they go hand in hand with each other. And afterwards we had that they added on the extra bracha, 18 brachas was Lamal Shinim. We have it 18 plus 1 is 19, but it was usually 17 plus 18. So that's and even within our bracha of Bonei Yerushalayim, Erkosh Meirah B'Yameinu, right? V'chisei David Avtacha Meirah yeah. Right? We mentioned David HaMelech within our bracha also. They go hand in hand with each other. So this is what Rav Shechter suggests over here, is that what happened is that at the time of Yoshua, they definitely do know. It's the Eretz Yisrael lo nischal kol hashvatim. They knew where the mikdash was going to be built, and therefore also that you couldn't rent out. You couldn't rent out to anybody because it didn't belong to you. And also they knew if that's where Yerushalayim, where the mikdash is going to be built, that's why the properties in the middle of the country is much more valuable than the ones in the north of the country. From the time of Yehoshua up until David HaMelech, they thought that the reason the value of the prices in the middle of the country was so high was not to do because of the mikdash. They thought they had to doresh the mikdash. They had to go find the mikdash. For 369 years, the mikdash was in Shiloh. But what were they assuming? The idea that Malchus, Kadosh Baruch Hu, was going to be in Yerushalayim, and that's what hiked up the prices. And that's what they assumed was this area. Where's the mikdash going to be? That was, they didn't know. That's a different aspect of the mikdash that we see. So there's two different aspects to the importance. Once we know the mikdash is also in Yerushalayim, there's two aspects to the importance of that, of Yerushalayim. And that's why, obviously, if you want to go into Hashkafa over here, that's exciting because you could talk a lot. But obviously, besides the mikdash, by us also, Malchus HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world, and as it's led by David HaMelech, is obviously a spiritual matter as well. But you do see these different aspects to Yerushalayim. One is the purely spiritual, the mikdash itself, and the other one being this idea of the Malchus of Yisrael has its importance in its own. And again, here's another example of that, just to be osek in Yerushalayim, because for us, Yerushalayim is always alive, and Be'ezrat Hashem, the desire to see it will help us be able to daven further on Tisha B'Av, and to be zoche v'ro'eh b'simchata b'mei Rabbi Yameinu. Okay, shkoyach.